Hi Shell Point, I'm Dottie Tronis, volunteer coordinator, and I'm very pleased today to be sitting with two of our past presidents from the Larson Pavilion Auxiliary, Bobby Brown and Mary Fountain.
Hi.
Hi, ladies. Shall we start with you, Bobby?
Well, you might as well. I'm the one that's been here the longest.
Okay.
As you said, my name is Bobby Brown, and I live in Nautilus. And I came to Shell Point in 2002. And my professional background in human resources management and executive recruiting was immediately recognized by the coordinator at that time. And I was invited to serve immediately on the board of directors. So I went directly on the board. And as an organization and process person, I became the chairman of the Evelyn Davis Health Education and Tuition Reimbursement Fund. It was a program. It was a scholarship program that we transferred into tuition reimbursement. In that position, I formalized the auxiliary bylaws. We had kind of sketchy bylaws, so we actually formalized the bylaws, which they still have today, although they have been modified. So they're a little different than they were, but they were the first ones. I also implemented all of the annual goals and objectives. They had never stated on paper at an annual meeting their goals and the objectives and how they were going to achieve them. In 2003, I became the first vice president, and I served under Pat Stroup, who is still with us today but can't be here with us for this time. And in 2005, I ascended to the presidency. There's an expectation that when you become first vice president, you will become president. So you're really being groomed and trained to be the president by the current president. And together, Pat and I championed the Heart of It All campaign. And this is probably our finest achievement. We successfully raised $350,000. I continued to chair the education program until it was transferred to Human Resources and the Legacy Foundation. So now if there are people that are interested in tuition reimbursement or scholarships, they simply need to contact Human Resources. So we felt that the auxiliary, we needed to have somebody else administrate that program to make it highly successful. We who serve are inspired by the staff and the residents, the patients and their families. We gain a lot of personal satisfaction and fulfillment by caring for other people. And auxiliary volunteers are truly paying it forward every day.
Bobby, it sounds like when you were president of the auxiliary, it was a real pivotal time for the administration and getting the bylaws and just setting the standards for the years to come.
It really was. Prior to that, it was kind of a loosely run organization, and it wasn't nearly as large.
Right.
And so we grew the organization to over 200 volunteers, and we had to put guardrails in place, and we had to have rules and bylaws to function by. So it was very pivotal.
Wow.
The things that we did didn't really, some of them didn't even exist.
Wow.
Like the job descriptions that we did and
Sure.
those kinds of things.
So Mary, your turn. So you followed Bobby after a couple years?
I did not. I followed Bill Staples.
Okay.
Yeah, he was my next door neighbor when I lived in the Woodlands in Lakewood. When I was growing up, I was raised in a medical family, but I never wanted to be connected with that kind of.
Right.
I was a teacher, not a nurse,
Okay.
and so that was not my calling. But as I called with David in the pavilion and saw the needs there and the care, it became very obvious to me that this was a critical arm of Shell Point and that we needed to be involved. And so at that point, 17 years ago, David and I started volunteering together on second floor for dining companions. And so that's what we did until David had to move to King's Crown. So we had that experience, not because I thought I would ever do that when I came to Shell Point, but obviously there's a need for help. And when you're living with your neighbors, they become your family. And you don't want to turn your back on them. You want to be there and be available.
Sure.
So that's what we've done.
Was
It's
there
been a-
anything, a highlight while you were president? Anything in particular that stands out to you?
Well, I think looking back, and I was looking at my notes, that celebration for the 20th year was so excited. We had 400 people in the village church for that celebration. And of course, the crown pins were presented to all of the staff and the former presidents, and then eventually to all the members of the pavilion volunteers at our coffee that we had. And as we were preparing that and thinking about the work of the volunteers, when you come to Shell, well, a lot of us when we come to Shell Point think that we have made a wise decision to come here for end-of-life care. But if you're like me, you may think, I don't want to spend my time with all those sick people, and so I'll just stay away. And then obviously it became necessary to be a part of the community because there was a need there and you want to give back to your friends and neighbors. Our challenge, I think, as we enter the Larson Pavilion is to give our love away and let our light shine before men so that they might glorify our Father in heaven. And that's what we're commanded to do. And if we live at Shell Point, we could take maybe an hour a month or a week to serve in the pavilion, because one day, according to Jeff Corey, at least 98% of us are going to spend time in the pavilion. And if we're smart, we better find out what's going on there. There's a shortage of 45,000 nurses in Florida. And so it's a struggle to find good staff to work there. And they need our help. And so that's why we need volunteers to step up and say, I can take a turn.
Definitely.
Let's do it.
Definitely. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Bobby. What great stories.
You're welcome.
We have a place for you at the Larson Pavilion. We would love to see you volunteer there.